You're listening to the Plant Code Podcast, brought to you by Max and Eric.
That's recording. So technically now we are live on air. Okay, so on today's episode of the Plant Code podcast, I am joined by Helena Afentiku that you can find on Instagram at pick it up and helena.afentiku. She's an ocean lover, recently vegan. Welcome to the podcast.
Ciao. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm excited to have you here. So
Thank you.
tell us a little bit more about you.
So, I love the oceans with all my heart. So, I started by collecting cigarette butts. I was annoyed by cigarette butts in the sand. And little by little, I started collecting the plastic bottles from inside the water. I started collecting straws and whatever was on the sand. And I came up with the page. Uh, I was inviting people to join me, and it went on for the past. I think the page is there for 2 years.
Okay.
Could be 2 years, and
So what made you want to start it?
the love, the love for the oceans.
Yeah.
I grew up on an island. I'm coming from a village that is on the beach. I always had clean water to swim in, very clean shores, and I don't know, just seeing the litter all over, it was annoying me so much, and I was getting upset whenever I saw people just dumping their stuff and leaving. It wasn't just they left. It's not that they left it for me to pick it up.
Yeah.
It's for everybody.
Of course. Yeah.
It's something that is gonna go in the ocean tomorrow, and it's gonna be in their backyard the day after. I
Yeah,
don't.
and in the fish that they'll eat as well. So.
Yeah, well, we
Yeah.
talked about this before.
Yeah, we did,
I
of course.
mean,
Yeah, but I mean, you say you had the page for 2 years. So when did you start collecting things on the beach? Before that, or was it the same time as the Instagram page?
no, way before that.
Yeah.
I started collecting, and slowly, I just did the page so I could call people
Okay.
for help.
Yeah.
Helping hands are always welcome.
Of course. Yeah.
It's not that I got help very often.
Yeah.
People will come for the after drinks or
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, at least it gives you that opportunity to start the conversation with
Yeah,
them as well. So,
exactly.
and you recently became vegan.
Correct. That recently, very recently,
Yeah.
like a month
A
and
month.
a half.
So welcome to the vegan family.
Thank you.
We're always very welcome. We love to have new people. So what kind of made you become vegan then?
So, um, I was a vegetarian before.
Okay.
Um I became vegetarian for quite a long time because of a video I watched with a chinchilla.
Okay.
How the skin is removed and everything. So I felt disgusted. I couldn't smell meat. I couldn't be near it, even though I loved the taste then before.
Yeah.
Um, so uh, after a long time, I started eating meat for a while again, and then um, I lost my dog. My dog passed, and I kind of softened up inside,
Right.
and I started thinking of other animals as well. I watched Gary Yurovsky
Ah, yeah,
and
the greatest speech you'll ever hear.
yeah,
Yeah, it's an
and the
amazing one.
Earthlings.
Yeah. I mean, you got to have a really tough stomach to watch Earthlings. I mean, it's a very harrowing and depressing. I mean, it is a bit depressing in the documentary.
But what's happening is depressing.
Yeah, it's true. It is portray the reality of the world that we live in, and it is depressing. And the reason that I wanted to talk to you today was about single-use plastic, because every episode we've done so far has been about veganism. We have mentioned the environmental aspect of it, but one of the biggest things we are doing is destroying our oceans, is destroying our beaches, and one of the main contributors to that is single-use plastic. I was reading some facts from earthday.org, and for example, we buy about a million plastic bottles every single minute. which is huge, and a lot of those do end up in our oceans. So you were recently in the Maldives. I saw on
Yeah.
Instagram, and you saw that a lot of that ended up in the ocean. So like, what did you see?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not only in the Maldives. Uh, in Maldives, there was a huge amount of plastic bottles because the island is super small,
Mm.
and whatever is consumed there cannot be recycled. Obviously, it's an island that mainly has um, hotels and a few houses of local people. So recycling is not an option. They don't send stuff to Male or any other place. So everything ends up behind the big hotels,
Okay.
on the rocks, and eventually in the water. The ones that escape the water, they get burned,
Right.
which is also super toxic. So if it's not polluting the water, it's polluting the air.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's not only the Maldives though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I
It's
don't want to point fingers just at the
everywhere,
Maldives, obviously.
and as I always say, it's not just recycling is not just what we do by collecting, by
Yeah.
picking stuff up, and it all goes back to the consumers and the demand and the production.
Yeah.
So the less the demand, the less the production.
Yeah, it's at the source that we need to really make a difference to that. In Europe, for example, when we were kids, we used to go to the supermarket and they just give us plastic bags. And you still find that a lot of places in Asia, in the Middle East, they'll put everything in a plastic bag. Whereas in Europe, they're moving away from that model, which is good because the problem with plastic, I think, is it's too cheap. We need to raise the price of plastic in order to reduce the demand and for them to stop plastifying things. I was telling you earlier that I saw bananas that were in a plastic box,
Yeah,
which is ridiculous because where does that box go? Even if it's recycled, how efficiently do you think that's really recycled today?
it's sad. Fact is that the new methods of putting things in packages is it's more costly.
Yeah,
So people keep using plastic. If you see, even online, if you go to suppliers pages, you're gonna see that the bamboo is much more expensive
mm.
than plastic. So for me to buy a box of plastic straws is gonna be 70 cents,
Yeah,
and a box of bamboo straws is gonna be $4, $3.
yeah. The price is huge, and we do, as I always say, live in a capitalistic society, and it's tough for businesses to sustain that. I was in Melbourne a few weeks ago, and a friend of mine, they own an Italian restaurant, and they're doing a lot of good stuff. They're bringing a lot of vegan options into their menus. And I actually went with him, and he was buying takeaway cups, and the paper ones that are recyclable, made from recyclable material, they were about 10 times as expensive as the plastic ones that you just simply throw away. So from a business perspective, it doesn't make sense for them to put the money into it. But then we all need to make the effort. Like there's now cafes in London, for example, they don't accept to give you a takeaway cup. You have to bring your own cup. So how do you avoid plastic on a day-to-day basis?
It's quite simple. I mean, for water, if you are going to places that have drinkable water, you take your reusable bottle. For coffee, the same. If you go to the supermarket, you take your own bag. I mean, living on zero waste is very, very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Especially if you are in places like a village that
Yeah.
I live, uh, things still come in packages. So to buy even vegetables, you have to buy them in a package.
Yeah, true that in a lot of the places that we live, they don't give us the option to buy, for example, bulk. Everything is wrapped, double wrapped in plastic, and people say it's just one cup, but it's never just one cup. It's one cup, but then if 7 billion people are saying one cup, that all of a sudden that's 7 billion cups. And straws is always a one that I find interesting because first of all, a lot of people are willing to give up straws to save the fish, but they're not willing to give up eating fish to save the fish, which is a different debate. But when it comes to straws, I think it's the easiest one we can approach, isn't it? It's the easiest one we can kind of give up on when it comes to single-use plastic.
I guess I think humans are very, very selfish. Um, as they do with their diet, they are being selfish on giving up something that gives them pleasure.
Yeah,
It's exactly the same with the environment. So if I can drink my, I'm gonna say frappe in Greece. I refuse to drink my coffee without a straw, my frappe without a straw.
okay.
It's exactly the same. And you can drink the frappe is exactly the same as instant coffee. It's just shaken, so you use the straw to avoid the foam on top.
Right.
Just make a normal coffee. It has exactly the same taste. I mean,
Yeah,
just because it's not gonna be called frappe anymore, it
yeah.
doesn't make any difference. It's just you are being selfish, you know?
Yeah, of course,
It's
yeah.
the same story.
But I mean, we used to having everything we want and everything exactly the way we want. So when people ask us to make even minor concessions to the way we live, we refuse and we start to get defensive. For example, I was reading an article about in McDonald's, how McDonald's in the UK they'd remove plastic straws from their, I think it's 1,000 over 1,000 outlets, and there'd been a petition signed by over 35,000 people asking to bring back the plastic straw, which is ridiculous for the environment.
And again, we we are very selfish. But if you look at the bigger picture, I mean, the straw is a problem, but it's not the only problem.
Okay.
Um, I think that the law, when it comes to plastic, has to be stronger. It has to. I'm I'm not gonna say completely ban plastic,
Yeah.
but at least the single use have to go. And it's not a choice because I always say the same thing, maybe it's becoming too much, but we only have one planet. It's not like we have an alternative. It's not like tomorrow, oh, this planet is not good anymore, we can go to another one.
Yeah, we're not going to go to Mars tomorrow, are we? I mean, it's not really an option for us these days.
Would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it's not like we have an option. There's only one planet, but like you said with the frappe, in Greece, there's a million types of coffee you can drink. You know, you can change, you can adapt a little bit your lifestyle to avoid polluting our oceans, to avoid using plastic for absolutely no reason at all. And I was reading into why there's such a big debate about straws as well. It's because straws, like, first of all, they're not necessary. We can easily live without them unless you physically cannot drink without a straw. But often they get blown into the oceans, they're from overfilled trash cans, or it can be that they're too thin to actually be recycled as well, to actually be cut down and then going into that recycling process. So that's why they come up as such a big problem. It's ridiculous the amount of numbers that we use when it comes to straws.
That's pretty much the life of single user.
Yeah,
Whatever you finish, you throw it away, it ends up in the landfills.
mm.
From there, with the rain, it goes into the streams, into the rivers, ends up in the oceans. It's the life of it, and it has been the same for ages now. We just failed to see it.
Yeah.
Um,
But which countries do you think are doing the best when it comes to single use?
I would say Australia. I would say Australia, some states in the United States.
Yeah,
Um,
because the Middle East is just there's no there's no real incentives when it comes to
Middle East is not sensitive, but they are following trends. And right
yeah,
now, I think that save the planet in brackets
yeah,
is kind of becoming a trend, and they wouldn't follow for the sake of saving the planet, but
yeah.
they would follow just to. Um,
I mean, if we can make saving the planet cool, then
oh
good.
yeah,
That's the plan. Yeah,
oh
let's make it cool.
definitely.
Yeah. If it's better than I don't know flash mobs or whatever thing that came
Oh,
and
flash
went,
mobs
then
would be
flash mobs were good actually. I don't know what happened to flash mobs. Maybe we should bring back flash mobs. But one thing you mentioned earlier as well was cigarette butts, and it's funny you mentioned that because I quit smoking in January, so that was like 4 or 5 months ago. and I'd been vegan for 2 years before I quit smoking. It was actually the environmental aspect of cigarette butts that made me quit, knowing that they never really disappear, they just break down and go into the ocean, and that they're toxic as well for the fish. So that kind of made me actually quit smoking. So, like you said, like that's the thing that you find the most of in the beaches, or
In the UAE,
yeah,
in the UAE, it's the most common thing. I would feel bags
yeah,
within 1 hour of collecting. I would fill up 2 bags. You know how small a cigarette bag is.
yeah,
You know how many they are to fill up 2 bags. It's a lot.
yeah,
But it's not the biggest problem. As I said before, whatever you consume the most is what ends up on the beach.
okay,
So, for example, in Indonesia, in Bali, you're gonna find all these little plastic cups because water comes in the 200 millimeters
okay,
uh, for tourists, for locals. So,
like mini couplets,
mini couplets,
and you just drink one and then throw it away.
correct. So, if you go on the beach any day, you're gonna see bunch of them inside the water. You're gonna see out piles
Yeah,
of them, and
that's insane.
I feel like it's a lost case, but you have to really fight with the government for it. You have to fight with the ones who are um, doing the packaging. There is the bottles from the same companies. There is the liter from the same company, and the gallons. And we are talking for Bali that is impossible that it doesn't have drinkable water.
Okay,
Indonesia is impossible that Indonesia doesn't have drinkable water
you mean from the rain?
from the rain. From they have. I think I've seen the most waterfalls in my life in Bali.
Okay.
Um,
So what do you think's stopping them from having drinkable water?
how dirty it is.
Yeah.
So if all the streams and all the rivers are full of plastic, plastic breaks into microplastic,
Uh-huh.
little pieces, which ends up in in the tap. Not only the plastic, lots of micro elements.
But don't they say that when you drink from a plastic bottle, you're actually drinking part of the plastic bottle as well?
As well, yeah.
That it's not necessarily better for you to drink from a bottle than it would be to drink from the tap.
Well, I think that when you break plastic into smaller elements,
Yeah.
it kind of becomes it's toxic.
Yeah.
It's just the toxins. That's why it's bottled, I guess. Um, but you have to go back to the production,
Yeah, of course.
which is a big battle. It's a fight for money. Because if you make tap water drinkable for third world countries, then it means that the population of these countries is not going to consume from the supermarket anymore,
Yeah.
which means way, way less profit for these companies. Um,
So you think they're holding off the governments from making that water drinkable?
well, it's just an idea.
I understand where that comes from. I mean, you do ask yourself the question of like, we're in the 21st century. How is it possible that everyone doesn't have access to drinkable water from the tap? And we're putting people on the moon. We're spending hundreds of millions of euros a year on football players, on useless stuff we don't need, and but then we can't provide drinking water to a majority of the population on Earth. It's crazy.
Well, if you think about it, in the long run, if we educate people
Yeah.
on how to consume and how to protect and sustain, everything is gonna be easier.
But I mean, when it comes back, like say, to Western society, to us, and I think people get very overwhelmed when we talk about environmentalism, about plastic. They feel like there's nothing they can do because like the numbers are always so big. Like even the numbers we mentioned, it's billions, it's millions, it's huge. The impact. I mean, I might as well give one more number that. What can we say? 4 trillion plastic bags are used worldwide annually. That's a 4 with a lot of zeros behind it. So, and only 1% are returned for recycling. So then that leaves the question, where does the rest go? But I think what's important is to think about the important things that we can do on a day-to-day basis, the smaller things. That, for example, what I find super inspiring about what you do with Pick It Up is that you're a normal person, but you take it into your own hands to make that difference, to actually go out there, to pick up some stuff, to fill up a bag of, be it cigarette butts, be it plastic bottles, instead of just looking at it and be like, oh, someone else will do it. And I think we do have to take on that collective consciousness of making that effort and getting out there and doing it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
Um, I'm telling my friends uh, about the environment. I talk to my friends a lot about the environment, and the answer I usually get is, "You think I'm gonna save the world? Well,
Yeah,
do you think I'm gonna save the world? No, but I wanna be part of the change at least.
exactly. Yeah.
And if tomorrow I have children, or I don't know, a niece, I can say, you know what, I have this to give you, but at least I tried.
Yeah.
This is what you get, but I tried."
That's where I do think it kind of links in with the vegan aspect of it. It's not because you can't individually change the world that you shouldn't actually do the best you can and try to minimize the impact that you're having on the planet, minimizing the effects of single-use plastic. Like today, for example, I learned an interesting fact from the Green Education Foundation, which was that chewing gum is actually made from synthetic rubber, which
Oh, yeah.
ultimately is plastic.
Yeah.
So, and that literally never goes away. So, the one thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to stop eating chewing gum. Like, that'll be my effort. Okay, like, that's something, and then that's something I'm going to talk about and I'm going to share. And I think if we all took it upon ourselves
Exactly.
to share that message a little bit, to learn one new thing and try something different.
It's little by little.
Yeah. And like, that's what I think you say is very interesting is people get very sad about it and they're like, well, I can't change the world, so I'll just pretend all this isn't happening. But it is happening. And it's up to us and our generation to make that effort.
But I mean, at the end of the day, if you are part of the change, you are changing the world.
Yeah,
Not alone, but together we stand.
exactly.
You know,
Together we
it's
stand, and that's the whole point of it.
and we can change a lot. I strongly believe that we grew with lots of wrong perceptions, but we can change that, and we
Yeah,
can teach the next generations different stuff,
yeah.
better stuff.
I did my first ever beach clean in January in Sri Lanka, and it was an amazing experience. It's something I'd always wanted to do. Um, and it was at the same time amazing yet so depressing because you do it, you put your effort in, and we collected quite a lot of stuff, but then you realize just how much is being pushed straight back onto the beaches and where
Yeah.
it's coming from. And that's why I think it's an important part to kind of get out there on the beaches and see what's going on and what's being left behind. And you, like you said, what's on the beaches the most are the things that we consume the most. So you can see the things that we need to reduce our consumption of. And I find that's a super interesting way to approach it as well. So what do you have planned for next with Pick It Up?
Well, I keep doing it.
Yeah,
I go on the beach pretty often, but I find people who help
yeah,
on the beach, not friends who are joining, but there's always somebody around who's gonna say, "Hey, you're doing a great job," and I say,
yeah,
"Well, come on,"
yeah.
and they join.
And you do
I
that close to your house?
Yeah, wherever I am. I
Yeah,
was now in Sri Lanka. I did exactly the same. Well, in Maldives, nobody helped.
yeah. Yeah,
In
Maldives
Sri
is
Lanka,
getting a
they
very
did.
bad reputation on on this.
In Sri Lanka, actually, um, I had lots of help from a guy that was nearby. He
Uh-huh.
just helped me to drag a very heavy. It was wood that had nets around and plastic bags around and everything. So with Pick It Up, I'm trying to reach out to more people, and I see that there are more and more pages that are coming up, and they're doing the same thing, and it's beautiful that
is.
there. It
Yeah.
means there are more people. At the beginning I thought I'm alone. Like I can't clean the planet by myself.
Of course not.
It's
No.
impossible, but there are so many pages, and
Yeah.
it's great to know they're out there. So maybe a few collaborations,
Yeah.
maybe we see.
I think that's important because you're doing it wherever you can, and then you are inspiring people. And even if people they're just watching you, at least you're kind of planting that seed in their mind. Like, what is she doing? Why is she doing that? Why is what she's doing important? Like, I don't think you realize just how much of a knock-on effect that it does have on people. You're not alone. There's, and like you say, there's more and more people who are doing it, more and more people who are interested in it, and it's only going to grow. And we are going to save this planet, and we are going to clean it all together.
Yeah.
That's
We
the
have
plan.
to think big. Maybe an
Well,
app that is gonna change everything. Maybe
Yeah.
apps are the future, I think.
Well, I
So
saw there was this
maybe.
young guy. He invented this big net thing that goes in the ocean and
Oh
it
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of cleans out the plastic.
yeah.
So I mean, there are things that are going in.
Lots of projects.
There's
Yeah.
lots of projects that are going in the right direction. Some amazing people I met a few months ago in Sri Lanka. They have the Clear Ocean Pact,
Oh yeah.
and what they're doing is great. Basically, they're for sailboats and big yachts. They've made up a system that I'd be completely incapable of explaining that turns seawater into drinkable water, so that means no plastic bottles on yachts and boats, which is amazing. So I'll try and bring them on the podcast so they can explain the thing that I'm talking about that I have no idea what it is.
I would love to contact them also.
Yeah, you should be in contact with them.
There are so many things going on. I was uh, I was watching lately a project in Colombia where
Uh-huh.
they built houses for the less fortunate people,
Right.
um, and the bricks are made out of recycled plastic,
Okay.
and it's a whole neighborhood, and
Yeah.
it goes in Mexico. They are doing roads. So many projects now. There is a net that is in the ports that collects only the rubbish, and the clear water runs through. There are so many projects,
Yeah.
so many good ideas. If you share, maybe another idea comes. You never know.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I think by talking about it, you can, like I said, inspire other people. So, what would you say are your top two tips for reducing your use of plastic? Two things that when you see them, it drives you crazy. You're like, just stop doing
Oh, I go crazy over pretty much everything. I'm great.
that.
um, well, carry your own stuff. Either it's a reusable supermarket bag,
Yeah.
or the plastic bottle, a reusable water bottle,
Uh-huh.
the coffee. Well, maybe it sounds very go vegan.
Go
I mean,
vegan. Yeah, I'm not holding a knife to your throat to say that, but yeah,
no.
it is one of the biggest
Uh,
impacts you can have towards the environment. Even though we didn't talk about it much today, but it is a great thing you can do. And I think all of these movements they do go hand in hand because ultimately, what do we want? We want to preserve life, we want to preserve the planet, and we want to make the world a better place for our children and for the generations to come. So I think we can all work together to make it great, be it from whatever perspective you have. I mean, just try your best. As Helena said, no more plastic bags. Bring your own coffee cup. Bring your reusable water bottle. And if you do that, promise your children will say thank you to you in about 25 years from now. That's the
be
plan.
kind.
Be kind as well to each
Be
other.
kind to everything around you. If you are kind, you're gonna be kind to the environment, to the oceans, to animals,
Yeah, I mean, no
to
one likes to
humans.
see the images of the tortoises and the turtles with the straws at the nose.
Exactly.
And just think maybe that straw was actually you that used it. So, and learn to say no to the straws.
It's things in your daily life. For
Yeah.
example, if you're ordering food, you have to tick the no cutlery. For example, if I don't have cutlery and I need it 100%, then I put an extra note for the.
Yeah, that's true. There is that option that's come up quite recently. I think it's on some of the food ordering apps that you can go green. But I think now they've reversed it. Whereas if you have to actually tick it if you want the cutlery, which is good because
Yeah,
I remember
that's
before they'd
better.
always give you so much plastic cutlery, so many napkins, sauces, stuff you didn't even know what it was, and you'd literally just throw it all away. And it's not even single use; it wouldn't even be used. So, or you just have a drawer where you just keep it there for like 5 or 6 years and you did end up throwing it away anyway.
Yeah.
So I think there are great incentives, and like we said, there are great movements going in the right direction. Thank you for coming to talk to me.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story. I said no clapping. By the way, that was a high five, not a slap. So once again, you should definitely be following Elena. You say your last name because I can't say your last name.
Afendiku. Sava Afendiku.
Afendiku.
Mm.
Okay, so I'll just put the link down below for you guys who want to follow on Instagram because I'm not going to say it again. I managed to butcher it the first time. So thanks again for listening to the Plant Code podcast, and we hope you enjoyed this episode about single-use plastic with Elena. Lots of love to you all, and chat to you next week. Bye-bye.
Ciao.